Most of the women we discuss here on this channel are often obscure and unknown, but today we are talking about one of the most influential queens in history. Hello, and welcome back to Weird Women of History. When most people think of famous queens, they often think of queens like Queen Elizabeth I, II, or Queen Victoria, queens who have arguably had the largest influence on Western European history, or, at the very least, modern pop culture. However, Queen Christina of Sweden may have had the largest artistic influence of any woman in the Italian Renaissance. Born in 1626 to King Gustavus and Queen Maria, legend has it that Christina was first announced as a boy due to her body being entirely covered with hair, likely lanigo. King Gustavus was not disappointed to hear that he had a daughter instead of a son, proclaiming that she would be clever as she had already managed to trick them all. Due to familial issues, despite being born a woman, Christina was considered heir presumptive upon her birth. Her father was fond of her and ensured that she would inherit the throne should anything happen to him. Even after her father's death, her official title was king and not queen. At only 8 years old, Christina's father died during the 30 Years' War. Her mother was exiled, and Christina was raised by her paternal aunt until her death 2 years later. From then on, Christina lacked a single maternal figure and instead was raised by a collection of governesses and ladies-in-waiting. Even before being officially coronated, Queen Christina was influential in calling for peace treaties to be signed amongst European nations, calling for an end to religious wars. At the age of 24, Christina was officially coronated. However, she had been ruling since around the age of 18. Unhappy with the prospect of marriage, and inspired by Queen Elizabeth I of England, Christina vowed that she would never marry. Instead, announced her cousin Charles as her heir presumptive. Discussions about Christina's sexuality still persist today. Many scholars believe her to have had a romantic relationship with one of her ladies-in-waiting, Eva Spar. There are multiple historical accounts of Christina referring to Ebba as her bedfellow, and love letters between the two. To many LGBTQ history buffs, Christina has become a sort of lesbian icon. Christina is also known for her untraditional femininity. At the time, many of her critics accused her of being a hermaphrodite. However, medical journals of the time and her own memoirs refute these accusations. Christina was not renowned for her beauty. Known for looking rather masculine, she dressed either scantily as a woman or completely as a man. Also noted for having a hunchback, deformed torso, and sporting facial hair. Now it is believed that she may have suffered from polycystic ovarian syndrome. Her mannerisms didn't help either. Known for acting completely improper for women of her era, she often slouched, cursed, crossed her legs, leaned against armrests, and spoke casually with all those that she met. On top of that, she often referred to her own sex ambiguously and bemoaned traditional feminine roles. 2 years into her reign, Christina became interested in Roman Catholicism. At the time, Catholicism was illegal in Sweden, and she had to be cautious about revealing her religious ideologies. In 1651, she likely had either a nervous breakdown or a stress-induced panic attack, collapsing in the center of court. During her illness, she ended up befriending a man by the name of Dr. Pierre, a French physician, known for his out-there medical ideologies. He was unusual for the era because instead of prescribing things like leeches and bloodletting, he ended up prescribing her warm baths, healthy meals, and relaxation. On top of his bizarre medical practices, Pierre also encouraged Christina to take pleasure in her status. He also introduced her to morally questionable media of the era, including erotic poetry that had been outlawed in most countries at the time. By 1654, Christina had decided that she wished to abdicate the throne. Passing the monarchy on to her cousin Charles, Christina was free to convert to Roman Catholicism, though she did not do so publicly, seeing as it was still outlawed, and had to flee Sweden to the safety of Rome. Prior to her abdication, she secretly sent ahead most of the Swedish treasury, including paintings, books, and statues. Disguised as a man, she was able to sneak through the country of Denmark, which Sweden had very unstable terms with at the time, and made her way to Italy. Her arrival to the Vatican was considered a spectacle at the time. Greeted by Pope Alexander VII, she was treated with a carnival that lasted 2 months in her name. Her life in Italy became a center for artistic and intellectual patrons. Christina became an unofficial representative of the Pope and traveled between Italy and France. Louis XIV, the infamous Sun King, and at the time still a child, considered giving Christina the title of Queen of Naples. However, in 1657, while Christina was staying in one of his chateaux, she ordered the execution of one of her noblemen. It had turned out that this man in particular had betrayed her letters to the Pope. Discovering his betrayal, she ordered his execution right then and there, and her servants stabbed him and chased him throughout the halls to finish the job. The incident ruined any chance Christina had of becoming Queen of Naples. Returning to Italy, she was shunned by Pope Alexander VII until his death. He viewed her execution of an Italian nobleman in French court as dishonorable. Despite Pope Clement X's declaration that women should not wear low-cut dresses, perform in theater, or dance, she once again threw herself into sponsoring the arts. Christina amassed a large art collection that included multiple Renaissance masters, such as Raphael and Michelangelo. And again, prior to her abdication of the throne, she had expanded Sweden's art collection from a very small amount to a very large amount, and then secretly sent it to Rome ahead of her so she may enjoy it there. She befriended many of the contemporary poets, scholars, theologians, and artists of the era. In 1689, at the age of 62, Queen Christina died of a mix of diseases and bacterial infections. Also, cool fact, Christina is one of 3 women buried at the Vatican. And that is the story of Queen Christina of Sweden. I'm sorry if I feel a little bit off in this video. It's getting kind of late, and I just didn't feel exactly motivated to do this one this week. I was actually really excited about covering Christina of Sweden, but it was a lot harder to find information for her. It wasn't like Princess Caribou, where there were a lot of contemporary accounts that were just freely available online. But it's also interesting to read about contemporary accounts of her. Some people criticized her for how hideous and ugly and crude she was, and other people discuss her as if she was this gorgeous, beautiful woman. And they don't leave out the fact that, yeah, she wasn't necessarily physically beautiful, but she was a passionate lover of the arts and heavily engaged in all sorts of different liberal movements of the Renaissance era. Things like not killing people for their religious views and treating other people nicely. Except she did kill that one nobleman. If this series does spike your interest, comment below, hit subscribe, maybe hit the notification bell. Thanks for checking out Weird Women of History. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you can think of any other weird women of history that deserve to be mentioned, comment down below. Thanks, guys. See ya next week. Yeah, I got something very different planned for next week, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. Alright, bye.